Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about credit reports and scores. You're going to be able to describe the type of information contained in a credit report, what credit reports are used for, and some behaviors that might increase or decrease your credit score. Let's get started. The purpose of a credit report is to summarize all of your financial history. A credit score, on the other hand, is one single number that sort of summarizes how good your credit history is. Higher scores are better than lower scores. Your credit report and scores are used for a lot of things in this country. So they'll determine whether a lender will approve a loan for you. Credit card eligibility, the interest rate a lender will offer. So when you go to get your first car loan, whether you get 5% interest or 11% interest will in part be based on your credit score. Cell phone sales and eligibility for promotions. So when you go to get a cell phone, usually you're spreading the payments for those cell phones out over several months. Basically, they give you a phone for a couple $100, and then you're paying off the rest of that phone over the next year or two. So they'll use your credit reports to see if you're going to be a good customer or not. It can be used for renting, so landlords can pull your credit report and see what kind of payment history you've had. And it can also, in some states, affect your car insurance rates. All right, so these are really important scores that are going to affect multiple aspects of your financial life. There are 3 companies who compile your credit history and create reports. These are for-profit companies that go out and hunt down all the information about you and then generate a way to predict how good of a customer you'll be for lenders. These 3 companies are called Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Lately, you may have seen Experian on commercials. They've been advertising a ton lately. You are entitled by law to 1 free credit report from each of those 3 companies to check for inaccuracies in their work. There are times when they'll just have wrong stuff on there. So you need to check those. Once a year, you get a free one. You're also entitled to a free credit report if you're denied for credit. So if you apply for a loan and they deny you because of your credit, you can get a free credit report at that point. You'll get a letter from the lender who denied you saying that, hey, we denied you. Here's the way to get your free credit report. Information in a credit report. So any kind of loans or credit cards, including on time and late payments, that's all in there. Bills that are sent to collection agencies. So your electric bill isn't included in your credit report. But if you don't pay your bills and they send that to a collection agency, then it can start being reported as a debt that you owe and not a bill that you have. You're current at all your previous addresses. So it's kind of creepy when I got my first credit report and I had moved a bunch in college and all over this. They had everywhere I'd ever lived. I was like, whoa, it was pretty insane. You guys are more used to, I think, being able to be tracked digitally, but for me, it was really strange. A list of who's requested your credit report. So if you've applied for a loan, there'll be a place on your credit report that says, hey, Wells Fargo requested your credit report, or a landlord did, or whoever the company or person who got your credit report. Bankruptcies. So a bankruptcy is a legal proceeding. You can't just, you may have heard people say they declare bankruptcy. You do that in the court, and what happens is the court will say, hey, this person can't afford this debt, and we're going to just wipe some of it clean for this person. That is going to be included on your credit report. It's going to have a huge negative impact on your credit score, and it's going to be on your report that you had a bankruptcy. Most lenders will not lend money to somebody who has had a bankruptcy in the past 7 to 10 years. We'll talk more about that later. Write-offs. So without declaring bankruptcy, you can sometimes negotiate with a credit card company and say, hey, look, I haven't paid this. I'm not going to be able to pay this. Can we do a write-off? And what they'll do is decrease your debt to something you can't handle. But that's going to be put on your credit report so that all future lenders can see that you weren't able to handle that credit. So it's not a bad idea to try something like that. if you're in trouble with things, but know that it has that long-term consequence of being on your credit report and lowering your credit score. Information that's not included in a credit report. So your race is not included. Gender is not included. Your marital status is not in there. Ancestry is not included. So your parents' scores do not affect your score. So if your parents have super high, awesome credit, you don't get to start with super high, awesome credit. If your parents have had a rough time with credit and they have a lower score, you don't start down there either. So you start with your own credit score. Your salary is not included. This does not mean that lenders can't ask for it. So that's a common question to ask for when you're applying for credit. They ask for your salary. My guess is why it's not on the credit report is that it would be really hard for those 3 credit card companies to get your salary accurate and keep it accurate. So that's probably why they don't include it. And as soon as it becomes easy to do, I'm sure they'll pop it on there for lenders to see. Assets are not included. So remember, an asset is something you own. Like, hey, I own a car and it's worth this much. That stuff's not included there either. Lenders will ask you about that kind of stuff still. When you apply for a loan, they'll say, hey, what other things do you own that have value? They may ask that. Okay. Things that lower your credit score in order of importance. So the number one thing that's going to make a huge impact on your credit score negatively is if you have late payments. If you cannot afford a payment for something, please don't get that credit card or get that car loan. Make sure you're always doing things that are going to be easy for you to be able to make payments on. Late payments will hurt your score. Large balances on credit cards and loans. So you might have a credit limit, a maximum amount that you can spend on your credit card of $1,000. If you keep that at like $800, that balance, you're going to find that that's lowering your credit score because that's not responsible credit card use. So keep those credit card balances low. Better yet, pay them off. When you first get a loan, like your first car loan, your credit score is going to dip because now all of a sudden you have a large loan that you owe. So you're not as good a risk in the future to get another loan. As you pay that balance off, your credit score will start going up and it'll go up higher than what it was before because now you have more room in your finances to be able to get another loan. So a credit score isn't a comment just on you and your responsibility. It's your current financial situation. How are you doing in order to get another loan? If you're already kind of maxed out but doing everything responsible, lenders still don't want to give you another loan, so your credit score will be a little bit lower. And that's okay. Credit scores go up and down. Anything above 33% or a third of your credit limit will have a negative effect on your credit score. High credit limits on credit cards. So credit card companies are notorious for inching up your credit limit. So you open a card and it has a $500 credit limit. And a couple years later, your credit card company might increase your limit to like $1,000. And you're like, wait, I didn't even want that. So keep track of all of that. And if a credit card company increases your credit limit, you could just call them up and say, hey, put that back down to $500. I don't want a $1,000 credit limit. Or you can let it creep up a little bit on you. Unused credit cards. So some people are like, I'm just going to get a credit card so I can have a credit score and just cut the credit card up and throw it away, never use it. That's not going to help your credit score. In fact, it's going to lower it to have these unused credit cards out there. Multiple requests for credit history. So this is where if you apply for a bunch of different loans or a bunch of different credit cards, each company will ask for your credit history, and those requests will have a small negative effect on your credit score. They're not a big deal. You don't have to worry about them unless you're doing a whole bunch of requests all the time. So new accounts, a brand new account will also have a little nick on your credit score because you've just opened up some more credit, which makes sense because now you have, there's more things that you owe or you could owe. Older accounts also show a longer credit history. So if you have an account that's 5 or 6 years old, don't close that account. Keep it open. I think my wife's oldest account is like 25 years old. We have a credit card from when we've just kept it going the whole time, and we use it occasionally. So that shows that we've been able to responsibly use that credit card for 25 plus years and pay off our debts. So it really helps your credit score. So here's a big question on this thing. If you make a mistake, like you miss a payment, how long does that stay on your credit report? Does that haunt you the rest of your life? The answer, hopefully, or luckily, is no. So after 7 years, normal negative information falls off your credit report. Some bankruptcies are reported for 10 years. So if you do file for bankruptcy, that will be on your credit report for a full 10 years, and then it will drop off your credit report. Positive information is reported typically for about 10 years. So stuff that's in your favor, like good payment histories, 10 years. Things that increase your credit score. Paying your bills on time, and that means typically within 25 days of the due date. So you'll get the bill in the mail and it'll say, hey, it's due on this date. You got to get it in. Keeping your credit card balances below that 30% credit of your credit limit. So if you have a $1,000 credit limit, make sure your balances are staying below 300. That will increase your credit score because that'll be a positive history for you. Don't open a ton of credit card accounts. So just be careful with how many accounts you open up. You might think, well, I have like 8 credit cards, but I don't really have much money on any of the credit cards. The problem with that is that each one has $500 of a credit limit on it, a small credit limit. $500 times 8 credit cards is $4,000 potential dollars of debt. That means next month you could act irresponsibly and buy $4,000 of stuff and be in trouble. So that'll lower your credit score because you would be a higher risk customer at that point. Make sure that if you do have some problem with a credit card, but it's like that old one you have, you didn't pay it, you missed a payment or something, keep that account open and just weather that drop in the credit score. Old accounts really are good to have. So some people will say, oh, I'm going to close this credit card and open a brand new one. That's going to actually have a little nick on your credit score because you have now only newer accounts, not older ones. So hold on to a credit card for as long as you can if you choose to get credit cards. I'm definitely not suggesting that you should get a credit card. Score ranges. So scores range from 300 at the lowest to 850 at the highest. If you're in that sort of probably 600-ish range, you're going to have a really hard time getting loans. If you're below that, very few lenders will loan you money. 670 to 739 is considered a good score. 740 to 799, almost 800, very good. Anything above 800 is considered excellent credit. And here's the percent of Americans falling into this. So you can see that 45% of Americans are in the very good to excellent range. And then if we add this one in, we're at like 66, 67%, 2/3 of Americans are in the good to excellent range. And then so folks in these two buckets are going to find it hard to get credit cards or to get loans, car loans, mortgages. These are going to be really hard things. And when they do get those loans, they're going to have to pay higher interest rates. So instead of paying 7% for a car loan, they're going to be paying 11 or 12% for a car loan. All right. And this is good to know, like you're exactly 1 or 2 points in your credit score, that's not meaningful. Companies, when they go to give you, or banks when they go to lend you money, they base their interest rates on like these categories of good and very good. So it's a bucket of numbers that'll kind of get you into a better deal. If your credit score goes up or down 2 or 3 points or 5 points, you don't have to worry about those things. Let it work itself out over time. Initial credit score. So I get this question all the time, like where does my credit score start at? Does it start terrible at 300 and then I build it up over time, or does it start at 850 and I hurt myself over time? The reality is you won't get a first credit score calculated for about 6 months after opening your first account that counts towards your credit score. After about 6 months, they'll give you an initial score. Now your score is based on how well you've been making your payments, how long you've had accounts, how many accounts you have, a mix of credit. There's all these wonderful things that go into it. So you'll start out with like a mid-range score, but you don't have to worry. Creditors, when they see your credit report, they can see that you're just starting out. So a lower score won't be bad, as long as you don't have any negative payment histories on your report. And that's it, my friends. Great job. Thanks for hanging with me. Hopefully you understand a little bit more about what credit reports are and what credit scores are. In the next activities, you are going to be taking a look at an actual credit report and seeing all the detailed information it contains. Have a great one. Enjoy your day.